now, and refugees with valid U.S. visas or green cards can board the plane. They just have to go through the proper process once they arrive to the United States.
Yeah, so the green cards, they reinstated them after the 48 hours, so that wasn't a problem. They estimated that about 60,000 people have been put on delay because this is a pause. That's all it is until we can get extreme vetting. And this is a bit of a jolt to the White House. They came out with this statement. They said at the earliest possible time, the Department of Justice intends to file an emergency stay. The president's order is intended to protect the homeland, and he has the constitutional authority and responsibility to protect the American people. And I think if their communications can staff up and get ready, they've only been doing this a week and a half, they can communicate effectively what this is all about. This isn't anti-Muslim. This is called pro-security. And if you see the guy that showed up in Paris at the Louvre with a machete, that's what we're trying to avoid.
That's what Donald Trump was tweeting about yesterday. He also gave his weekly address, and in the address, he did talk about this immigration order. Take a listen.
I will never forget that my responsibility is to keep you, the American people, safe and free. That's why last week I signed an executive order to help keep terrorists out of our country. The executive order establishes a process to develop new vetting and mechanisms to ensure those coming into America love and support our people, that they have good intentions. On every single front, we are working to deliver for American workers and American families. You, the law-abiding citizens of this country, are my total priority. Your safety, your jobs, and your wages guide our decisions.
You know what? This is going to set up an epic battle between with Donald Trump and his White House. It's going to be dragged through the courts for a while. But it ultimately comes down to this. Do people who are not American citizens have a constitutional right to be in this country? And the answer is absolutely not. I mean, it is clear. Alan Dershowitz, who certainly is not a Republican, says essentially the law is on Trump's side because the Constitution does not protect non-citizens, and that's what this is about. The reason it was settled up in Washington State is because Washington State said we have standing in this because we've got a bunch of university students and staff overseas who effectively can't come home. So the judge said, you're right, you've got standing. Now he issued this particular ruling, and it's going to stand temporarily until they can sort it out.
In a way, I think it's message sent. The administration says, I'm going to do what I told you I'm going to do. We're going to let the legal mechanisms come off the way they want. But I give you Exhibit A, Belgium. Exhibit B, France. Exhibit C, Germany. They said, open the doors, we have a big heart. And in turn, in many cases, they were wondering why they can't walk the streets and feel safe again. They opened up their hearts without proper vetting, and it's been a disaster, if I could use the president's word. That's all he's trying to do. He's not anti-Muslim. He's not this or that. He's just saying the problem is radical extremists. Their goal is to infiltrate the refugee program. I'd like to stop and evaluate an effective extreme vetting system in order to keep us safe. If you don't want to do it, if you want to protest about it, if you want to use the courts to overturn it, I can't do anything else. If you don't want to lock your door, I can't make you secure.
Well, these judges need to listen to the American people. He won. He won the election, and people went to the polls for this very issue, to keep this country safe. People are tired of people from other countries having more rights than the people who pay taxes and live here.
So, it's also just one other note. It's interesting. Jeff Bezos, the guy who runs Amazon.com, is a big supporter of this legal action in Washington. And we also know that, he and Mr. Trump have had some problems in the past. His newspaper, the Washington Post, beats up Donald Trump left and right. So Jeff Bezos probably feeling pretty good that the judge in the case that he legally supported, the guy from Amazon.com, ruled in his favor.
And of course, Ainsley is an Amazon Prime shopper, right?
I am on that site all day long.
You and your elite.
Prime is worth it.
I heard. That's what I hear.
You're not a Prime?
Evidently, my wife is a Prime. I just don't have the password. So we got to get together.
Your Amazon.com password?
No, she went Prime on me without telling me.
It's the same account.
Is it really?
Yes.
It doesn't let me in. I'm not sure what's going on.
All right, Don, if you're watching, send in the password.
If you don't mind.
You might need to order something in the next 4 hours.
If you could text me. I know it's Saturday.
Brian, we could actually get you a necktie in the next 3 or 4 hours.
I think I look sexy, and so Joel told me that a little bit earlier, so I'm going to leave it off.
You feel a little loose?
Yeah. so to speak, if you could say that. So yesterday on this very set, we had a chance to talk to the owner of the Patriots, who was kind enough to make it an annual event to appear in our show.
Such a nice guy.
Yeah, before his 7 Super Bowls. And he told the story. He's a Democrat from Massachusetts. And they
Gave money to Barack Obama's campaigns.
Yeah, and everyone's wondering, how did this friendship with Donald Trump get so fervent and so deep? Why were you all over the inauguration and Election Day? And here's what he said really made them fast friends.
Well, over 20 years ago, we've been friends, and I never really did business, but just had a personal relationship, and he's been great to me over those last 2 decades, and I had the privilege of going to Melania and his wedding, and in the toughest time in my life, he was there for me when my beloved wife died. 5.5 years ago, and he came to the funeral with Melania. He visited me at my home Memorial Week. He called me once a week for a year. How are you doing? I was really depressed, and he invited me to things, and he looked out after me, and only 4 or 5 people did that to that extent. So I'm loyal to my friends. I remember who the people are there when the tough times are there.
We played that because we not only wanted you to see what Brian looks like in a tie, staring at Bob Kraft. That was from yesterday's show, but it got so much play.
Hundreds of thousands of people shared that on social media because while, the left is trying to paint Donald Trump as a nincompoop and a racist and all that other stuff, it turns out the people who know him, love the loyalty. It's interesting, down in Mar-a-Lago at Palm Beach, I believe tonight is the annual Red Cross Ball. That is where the President of the United States is today. He's at Mar-a-Lago, his resort, and there are a lot of people who are going to the ball because they want to say congratulations to their neighbor down in Palm Beach, Donald Trump.
And Bob Kraft, as well as Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, have hit it off with Donald Trump. And when Belichick called right after the victory
and look at how much crap did Tom Brady take for having the cap and being friends with him. They golf.
Do you
Big
think
deal.
you could call him, since you have a relationship with him? You asked him great questions. Could you ask him if I could spend the day with Tom Brady?
If you could do that,
yeah.
if possible.
Well,
I'd like to interview him today.
You notice
For an interview?
I understand.
All I did was nod my head and let him finish. That's all I did.
You had me at hello.
You got it, I guess.
Anyway,
so.
don't adjust your set and don't run to work. It is Saturday, and we're doing a special live show from Houston.
Because tomorrow is the Super Bowl.
That's right.
We're so excited. Right. Heather and Janice are here. We brought the whole show on the road for the first time ever, right?
Yeah, never been done before.
Never been done before. Heather, isn't it fun?
It's a great morning for it. Good morning to all of you. Hope you're off to a great Saturday. I have a couple news headlines I want to bring you right now. The military tug of war now continuing between President Trump and Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terrorism, now responding to brand new economic sanctions from the White House by planning military exercises later today. We understand it'll include a missile launch. The U.S. sanctions were in response to an earlier failed ballistic missile launch. From the White House to Houston, the Vice President, Mike Pence, going to Super Bowl. He'll fly in tomorrow on Air Force Two to watch the New England Patriots take on the Falcons. He's the 4th sitting Vice President to see the big game in person, following the footsteps of former Vice Presidents Al Gore and George H.W. Bush. No word yet on which team he's rooting for, but Mr. Vice President, come on by. We'd love to see you. A smiling George H.W. Bush in this newly released photo following a 2-week stay in the hospital. The former president posing with his nephew, Denver Broncos President Joe Ellis. The 92-year-old and his wife Barbara will be taking part in the coin toss before the Super Bowl here at NRG Stadium. The former president tweeting out this video of a spinning Super Bowl coin, saying he's, quote, getting fired up for the Sunday game. And we're looking forward to having him, and so glad that he and his wife are doing so well.
How do you
and
do
those
that?
Are headlines.
TV magic.
Wow. That's unbelievable. Does he live with Kreskin?
George, thank you very much, Heather.
Thanks.
I've actually been to his house here in Houston, and he doesn't live too far away.
Yeah, near Rice University?
Right.
I'm sure if you go to a gas station in Houston, you're like, where does the president live? People would be, down the street, that street. Everyone here knows where he lives,
right at his statue in the middle of the town.
Trust
by the way,
me, you're not going to get close to him.
And by the way, Steve never said he was invited. He just said he went to his house.
That's
all right. Straight ahead.
Straight ahead on this Saturday, you've heard the president say it time and time again.
Do not worry. We are going to build the wall, okay? Don't worry. Don't even think about it.
Well, we've all heard it. Well, now Senator John Glenn says Mexico's not...
John McCain. John McCain.
Okay. I'm thinking space because of NASA. Coming up, Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller is on the front lines of the border battle.
Come on up, Sid.
He's joins us live to respond next.
If you only build a wall, only a quote a wall, without using technology, individuals, drones, observation, etc., you're not going to secure the border.
Mm-hmm. And he's obviously talking about having Mexico pay for it. Do you think that's actually a viable option?
No.
Why is that?
Because it's not a viable option.
Not a viable option. That was Senator John McCain yesterday, refuting the claim that Mexico will pay for the U.S.-Mexican border wall. But hasn't Donald Trump already proven he's a man of his word? Let's talk to
Well,
this
let's
guy.
ask this guy next to us, Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller. Hey, Sid.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Be back with you today.
Good
We
to
need
see you
you.
again. John McCain says it's not viable. You can't just build the wall. That's not going to work. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I have the utmost respect for Senator McCain, for his military service to our country, and for his long tenure in the Senate. Very, very wise man. I supported him in his nomination for the presidency. 6 years ago when he ran for re-election, I can remember the commercial when he was down on the Arizona-Mexican border and saying, we need this fence.
Yep.
But ever since Donald Trump got into the race, they saying he can't be successful, he can't do this. He's delivered on every campaign promise so far. And this is another deal that he will fulfill. And Mexico is not going to write us an $18 billion check. McCain is right on that. But they will reimburse. We're going to build the wall, get reimbursed from Mexico.
How? Because people are going, well, we're going to have the outlay right now, which is fine, deficit spending, but how will we wind up getting the money back?
And that's what Trump said. He said, we're going to build the wall and Mexico will reimburse us, basically is what he said.
Yep.
Well, there's any number of ways. For one, we can withhold funding that we send to Mexico.
Sure.
From the Homeland Security budget. We
do
write
that.
them checks. We could just write a smaller check.
We can reduce that. We can do a surcharge on money orders going to Mexico that was earned up here.
Yep.
We can do a value-added tax on imports at the border. So they really won't have a choice, in the matter. We will collect enough funds
Right.
to pay for the border wall.
But Sid, that was a network trying to get a remark to make Donald Trump look bad from somebody who's been a critic of Donald Trump. And I think John McCain's a great friend of the show and everything. But he knows we're talking about a layered defense. General Kelly talked to Catherine Herridge 2 days ago and talked about the increase of border security and technology. So that is not a real accurate statement that he made.
Well, I think we're going to get reimbursed. His statement would be accurate if he said Mexico's not going to write a check. I don't think that is going to happen. But we will get reimbursed. It's going to be a very secure wall. I hope they build one much like they have in Israel.
Yep.
That's a state of the art. We can learn a lot from that wall.
Sure. Sid, what do you make of this judge yesterday saying, okay, that temporary travel restriction that President Trump has come up with, can't do it right now, so it's stuck in the courts?
Well, of course, that will be appealed and overturned. Yeah. There's much history over that. Most every president, all the way back to the last 5 or 6, have instituted that. So it's not an uncommon practice. It's a proven practice that the president has that authority. So I think it's temporary at best.
Sid, why did you vote for Donald Trump?
Donald Trump is I'm ready for change. I didn't, like everybody else, I didn't start out supporting Donald Trump.
Hey, your own governor was running.
I supported my governor, and that, didn't work out well for him. He's doing good now.
He's got a job now.
He's got a job now. So yes, and the Trump campaign actually reached out to me and said, hey, Donald Trump doesn't know a lot about farming. We need some help there. Would you help us assemble an agriculture advisory team? So I've been advising them on agriculture issues and border security and things like that for quite some time.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, there's
Sid.
not great soil in a tower.
All right.
So he definitely needed your
He has a
help.
big ranch with cattle and horses. Thank you, Sid.
He does have Trump steaks.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
Thanks for the hospitality down here in Houston.
All right, thanks, Sid.
All right, coming up, Pete Hegseth is an Army veteran, but he joined the Air Force for one day to go for a ride in an F-16, and Pete is live with an inside look at the Super Bowl and the security that's going to be in the sky.
Okay, come on, Pete. He didn't look so good in that.
Is he hitting
there.
cheerleaders?
Good morning and welcome back to Fox and Friends from Houston. Time for some headlines now. The USS Cole is on patrol in the waters off of Yemen following an attack on a Saudi warship by Iranian-backed rebels. The news comes as tensions rise between the U.S. and Iran following a new set of economic sanctions. The Cole is the same warship that suffered heavy damage in an al-Qaeda bombing attack in Yemen in 2000 that killed 17 of our sailors. President Trump saving taxpayers millions and millions of dollars as the Pentagon strikes a deal with Lockheed Martin for 90 F-35 fighter jets. It's the lowest price in the program's history, costing $8.5 billion overall, saving taxpayers $720 million. Congratulations. Those are your headlines. I'll see you real soon. Thanks, Kate.
All right. Thank you very much, Heather. All right. All right, everyone watching the Super Bowl tomorrow at NRG Stadium should feel extra safe because our Air Force pilots and NORAD will have the skies covered. How do we know that, Ainsley?
Well, they've been preparing for this for a very long time for the big game tomorrow. And our own Army veteran and Fox News contributor, Pete Hegseth, he went to take part in one of the drills. You're in the Army, or you were in the Army. Are you always in the Army?
Yep,
always in the Army.
Always happy to be on the ground.
right.
Because you were up. Was it yesterday?
2 days ago. Yep.
2 days ago. You were up for about an hour and a half.
Yes.
And the last 45 minutes were
puke prevention time. It was an hour and a half up in an F-16 with an amazing crew, and we got to observe what they do at NORAD and in this Air Defense Command to make sure all the things we don't think about, that the skies are clear, that they can interdict an aircraft if necessary. It was really neat, and it's amazing to watch those who serve and what they do.
So wait, NORAD does more than just track Santa?
They do more than just track Santa. They track 24/7, 365, and then for special events like this, they ramp it up even more. So I took to the skies, and we filmed it, so take a look.
NORAD's role is to support the FAA along with our local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies in protecting the skies over the Super Bowl.
I've been cleared to fly.
You've been cleared.
Very nice. Like a glove, I'm telling you. Look at that. It just makes you feel cooler when you put on a suit like this. This is going to prevent me from passing out because it makes sure the blood flows up to your brain when you're pushing 3, 4, 5, 6 Gs. And this is what would happen if something went wrong. Going to throw that on. Well, I don't think there's any going back at this point. We got a great colonel who's going to be flying this sucker, a great unit that's prepared it, and a mediocre passenger who really prefers the ground. That's why I'm an infantryman. I like being on the ground, not up in the sky, but I guess we'll give it a go. We'll see. It's feeling real right about now.
All right, man, you ready to rock? All right.
Departure morning, break 11 airport.
Holy cow.
Okay, afterburners kicking in. Feel that? Woo! Nice flight right there. It's fine. But it was just going to take this. I got it. That's right. Wow. Center from Bravo, figure out southwest. Nice.
A note to self, how not to get out of an F-16.
All right. There you go.
Second time's a charm. Colonel makes it look a lot cooler than I do. Holy cow. Did you push it to the limit, or did you go easy on this infantryman?
I'll tell you what, we actually max performed that aircraft.
What did we do up there?
We started off with about 4 or 5 Gs, and then we ratcheted it up to 6 Gs, 7 Gs, and then even to 8 and 8.5 Gs as well. We did some aerobatics. Started off with a loop. We did some barrel rolls.
We intercepted a couple of other F-16s that were up there.
Yeah, we sure did. We got to rejoin with the KC-135 refueler, and we got a good chance to do some aerial refueling with them.
I'm going to fly right underneath him.
Just at a gas station at 16,000 feet, 5,000 pounds of fuel.
231 Roger.
Going over my head right now.
This is American air power right here. Really,
yeah.
You're able to rejoin in the sky with another, aircraft, refuel, continue the mission. It's how we operate every day over the skies of Afghanistan and Iraq.
While we were there, we waited for another flight of F-16s that were doing a practice for the Aerospace Control Alert mission.
This was, in some ways, a training exercise for Sunday, for the Super Bowl. And so you guys, the types of things we did up there might be the type of thing you could be called to do on Super Bowl Sunday.
Absolutely. Just like the Falcons or the Patriots are practicing right now, getting ready for the big game, so are the FAA and the ANG and NORAD, and getting our communication and our coordination ready to protect the skies while the game is going on. You guys can watch the game, and we'll watch the skies.
What these guys do, how they do it, seeing it firsthand, man, it makes you proud to be an American. It really does. It really does make
excellent job.
Watch that refueling. They do that with such ease, and it is so complicated. And the guys that serve in Iraq and Afghanistan, they do that hundreds of times a day.
That's amazing.
Pete, I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but they've been at war for 20 years. Think about the enforcement of the no-fly zone with Saddam Hussein, and then the build-up. And everyone goes, oh, yeah, there was an F-16 flight, and they bombed them from the sky. They're the ones doing it.
They are, yep.
And there's a no-fly zone around the stadium tomorrow,
there
right,
will
within
be
30 miles?
A no-fly zone enforced around the stadium. They'll be charged with doing it. They'll be up in the sky sometimes or on the ground ready to go.
What's the difference? I know no-fly zone within a 10-mile radius of the stadium, and then a restricted no-fly within 30 miles. What's the difference?
Yes, you approved aircraft, flights in and out that they know about, but your random Cessna better not be near the stadium.
Or you'll go after it.
Good job not puking on camera.
That was really the biggest challenge. Don't pass out and don't puke. And I barely accomplished
because you got up to 8.5 G's, he said. You said you were about to pass out. What keeps him from passing out?
Immense amounts of training when these guys know what they're doing. The black light came in on my face, and I was pretty close.
Just like that.
And he eased up on me. So thank you, Colonel, for not taking it all the way.
Great job, Pete.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, coming up on this Saturday, Democrats making their case for the next big election in 2018.
Here now. No, that doesn't do any good. Shall we sing This Land Is Your Land again until they get the sound working?
This land was made for you and me.
And believe it or not, that wasn't the worst thing to happen to Nancy Pelosi this week. Look.
Right.
She saw the moon this week.
Yeah, tell them you're Muslim. And wonder what goes into Fox Sports production on the biggest sporting event of the year? I'll take you behind the scenes to find out what I found out yesterday. You're not going to believe it. Plus, we're grilling up some dadgum cooking. It's all good on game day.
A lot of wings.
All about wings.
A Fox News alert, a federal judge ordering an immediate halt to President Trump's immigration order, effectively opening the borders back up for the time being, at least, so they can figure this all out. Here to react is our political analyst. We have Teslin Figueroa. She is a contributor for The Hill, the one in the middle right there, Kristen Tate, and Democratic strategist Arash Aramesh. Thank you all for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're the Democrat, Republican, Independent.
That's right.
So I know where you stand. You agree with this judge, who was a President Bush appointee.
Absolutely. He is actually a Georgetown law grad and a President Bush appointee. He's a Republican conservative judge in Seattle, in Washington State. And the order he actually put in place to stay on this executive order is very important. This is not the first federal judge order against this executive order. We've had 3 others, actually 4 others, one in Virginia, one in Boston, one in Los Angeles, and now this one is in Seattle. There are a couple of issues with this executive order. There are a lot of flaws with it. There are some constitutional and pragmatic, practical issues with this order. But here's the thing. Let's look at a couple of facts before we move on. First and foremost, not since 1975 has an American been killed on U.S. soil by any citizen of those 7 countries, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Somalia, Sudan, Libya, and Yemen. Secondly, we love immigration. Just go to any major campus, go to any big university, go to Stanford, go to Yale, go to Princeton, go to Caltech, see how well those immigrants are doing. If you can't, go to the nearest
Kristen,
hospital.
what's your response?
See those doctors.
Look,
They're doing great.
This is why Donald Trump got elected. He didn't get elected because of the economy or because we need a stronger military. He got elected because of immigration. We see these terrorist attacks rocking the globe. I mean, just yesterday, there was the attack in France, and Americans have finally put their foot down, and they're fed up. We finally have a president who will stand up to this nonsense. So this judge can try to block it, but but Donald Trump does not give in to this stuff easily, and we're going to see a pushback now.
Teslin, how do you feel as an independent?
Well, I think Donald Trump made it clear that he says what he means and he means what he says. He said it's time.
So
for
you
some
like
tough
the
talk.
executive order?
Well, I think that the leadership of saying that I actually do mean what I say. These sanctions, these immigration issues have been going on with Clinton and Bush, Bush, and also Obama. But it's about the leadership on who is actually going to stick to the system, actually have a mandate by the people that are saying we are sick and tired of immigrants coming into the country and getting benefits that Americans do not get. So I disagree with the panelist when he says go and see how well they're doing. Well, what I'm seeing is not paying taxes. What I'm seeing is getting a lot of freebies that Americans are not getting, and particularly when you talk about African Americans. So if an African American breaks a law, guess what? They go to jail. So I guess it's time for immigrants to also abide by.
We're not talking about illegal immigration. We're talking about doctors and lawyers. We're talking about nuclear physicists coming here. And
it's more than doctors and lawyers.
The reaction.
Fringes. Right. He's trying to appease the Breitbart crowd, the fringes, the alt-right, the actual, I don't want to call them white nationalists. He's trying to appease
So you're telling me that
very
60
small minority.
million Americans who voted for Donald Trump are white nationalists?
It was a 60 million, but Steve Bannon is a white supremacist, no doubt about it. And guess what?
Order has
a minority.
Been
he's a minority president. Lost the popular vote, and he's a minority president. 43%.
Right, but you lost.
Let's get the facts
exactly.
right.
Exactly. You lost the election.
Right. Okay.
Well, guess what?
Y'all, thank you so much. Cool down, go get some wings, and enjoy the Super Bowl tomorrow. Thank y'all for being with us.
Thank you, Andy.
All right, they are two of the best football players ever. Tiki Barber and Hall of Famer Tim Brown. They're both here. They're going to play a game with us coming up. It's called Cornhole.
That is our starting team. You look at the Stafford Cobras. Their fourth grade squad has been Super Bowl champions for 4 years. We got the Texan cheerleaders. We got the Super Bowl mascot and a lot of very cold coaches.
It is very cold. In fact, as you look live at us here in Houston, Texas right now, temperatures in the 40s, wind chill makes it feels like it's down in the 30s, but people are so excited because this is Super Bowl Saturday, and we've got about 100 people who showed up early to be with us here on
That's right.
Fox
Those are the Texan cheerleaders that Brian was talking about in the beginning. But in the back of them, the Falcons cheerleaders, they're here for 2 hours, and we're fair and balanced. We've got the Patriots cheerleaders coming up. But look at that right there. Peter's eating some dadgum good wings.
Right.
1.33 billion wings are consumed over the course of this weekend.
Why not?
What does that say about the country? We like fried
like our
food.
wings.
We like to.
Listen, well, he didn't fry them. He baked them, he grilled them, he smoked them, and they are delicious.
Right, yeah, we did that the first hour. Like everyone wants to wake up with that for breakfast. Yeah, it's going to be great, and we have a huge show. Amongst our guests coming up over the next few hours, George Foreman's going to be here. Joe Namath is going to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Absolutely. Plus Corey Lewandowski, who has been an advisor to the new president and also was his original campaign manager. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about a Fox News alert. You probably heard that there's a U.S. district judge appointed by George W. Bush. His name is John Robart. Last night he issued a temporary restraining. Actually, he stopped President Trump's 4-month freeze, his temporary vetting, said, you know what, we're going to have to figure this out. And so now apparently the airlines are being told, okay, let them back on the planes.
Yeah, where they're going, how they're going to implement it, what they're not going to do. It's going to be up to the courts to decide. But right now, it's all on a pause. And here's the White House statement. At the earliest possible time, the Department of Justice intends to file an emergency stay. The president's order is intended, by the way, to protect the homeland. And he has the constitutional authority and responsibility to protect the American people. And he's looking what happened in Europe. He's seeing what happened in France, in Belgium, in Germany, and saying, I don't want that to happen here. That's part of the reason why he was elected. And then yesterday, as he tweeted out, we opened up the show, and Steve, you actually yelled it out. You said there's been an attack outside the Louvre by a guy with a hatchet going after a French soldier. Mm-hmm. How many more of these attacks do you take if you're president before you say, I got to take action? If they could have communicated it more effectively, they wouldn't be in this mess.
Well, Donald Trump said, wake up, America. He was tweeting about that yesterday morning when it happened. And he has his weekly address, and he did talk about his immigration order in this week's address. Listen.
I will never forget that my responsibility is to keep you, the American people, safe and free. That's why last week I signed an executive order to help keep terrorists out of our country. The executive order establishes a process to develop new vetting and mechanisms to ensure those coming into America love and support our people, that they have good intentions. On every single front, we are working to deliver for American workers and American families. You, The law-abiding citizens of this country are my total priority. Your safety, your jobs, and your wages guide our decisions.
Nobody should be surprised that Donald Trump has done this, and we've been talking about it this past week. This is what he promised when he was running for president of the United States. How many times did you hear him say, we're going to have extreme vetting? This is what he's talking about. So they take this form of temporary pause, they figure out what's working and what's not working, so that going forward, you know, people who should be stopped at our border are. But what the left is trying to do with these orders and all the stuff you see in the mainstream media is they're trying to convince everybody that the U.S. Constitution essentially gives everybody on earth, non-American citizens, the right to come into this country. And that simply is not what the founders intended.
So the president's saying he wants to reverse this. This federal judge is saying that now people can fly from those 7 countries here to the U.S. But what happens next? Is there someone that can reverse this?
Well, the ban is on a pause, and it's up to them to file a formal stay and then get it to another judge to feel differently. And in Boston, the administration got some wind at their back, got it reaffirmed.
They won.
But it was a Seattle judge that said, who reported by George W. Bush, that said, no, this is unconstitutional. They said it significantly harms residents and effectively mandates discrimination.
So if it goes to the Supreme Court, what happens?
That would take years. What the administration is going to do is they're going to seek some immediate, temporary, probably legal remedy through the courts, but ultimately all the President of the United States has to do is another executive order. Just make it a little more focused, a little more targeted. Next thing you know, got a new order. So stay tuned.
Right.
I'm feeling, even though Donald Trump is down at his resort in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, he's working on this right now. We'll talk to Corey Lewandowski within an hour, find out what they're doing behind the scenes.
And we're probably going to get a tweet soon, even though it's a Saturday.
I did check this morning to see if he tweeted about it before our show. He had not at that point, but we'll see.
He will not get up when we get up. We don't know what it is. Meanwhile, let's talk about paying for the wall in Mexico. We know that General Kelly told Catherine Herridge this week he's going to start as early as March and be done in 2 years, and significantly bolstering up the wall when needed on the southern border. And he also talked about a layered operation, technology, fencing, a wall, everything necessary to secure the border. That's why I don't understand what we're about to hear from John McCain. It's almost like an intentional way to diss the president.
Yeah, he's saying it won't work. He's not in favor of it. Listen to what he said.
If you only build a wall, only a quote, a wall, without using technology, individuals, drones, observation, etc., you're not going to secure the border.
Mm-hmm. And he's obviously talking about having Mexico pay for it. Do you think that's actually a viable option?
No.
Why do you say that?
Because it's not a viable option.
And he probably says it's not a viable option because it's something we've never done before. I mean, America is always having an open border with Mexico, so why would we do that? We haven't done it in the past. But this, once again, is what Donald Trump campaigned on. And a plurality of people in the United States said, okay, that's the plan. We want a wall, and we want Mexico to pay for it. And we had Sid Miller on. He's the Texas Agriculture Commissioner just about an hour ago here on our set in Houston. And he said there are a whole bunch of ways that Mexico could wind up paying for it.
Ever since Donald Trump got into the race, you know, they say he can't be successful, he can't do this. He's delivered on every campaign promise so far. And this is another deal that he will fulfill. And Mexico is not going to write us an $18 billion check. McCain is right on that. But they will reimburse. We're going to build the wall, get reimbursed from Mexico. There's any number of ways. For one, we can withhold funding that we send to Mexico. We can do a surcharge on money orders going to Mexico that was earned up here.
Yep.
We can do a value-added tax on imports at the border. So they really won't have a choice, I mean, in the matter. We will collect enough funds to pay for the border wall.
He was talking about the money orders. There's so many people that live here in the United States that send money back home to their family members down in Mexico. So you could charge them more for that through the money order system. Or tax imports, exports, both, that come in and out of our country.
But when you do those taxes, usually there's a response. I think you're more apt to look at the Homeland Security grants that we give them to secure their southern border so they don't mess up our southern border. Yeah.
So, you know what? If John McCain's watching right now, and I know that he's a big barbecuer, so he could be watching our segments with the
How do you know that?
He's got 8 grills at his house down in Arizona.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding. So anyway.
How do you know that?
It was in People magazine. So John McCain, I bet you $1 if you're watching. I bet 2 years from now, the wall is either done or under construction, and Mexico is paying for part of it, or at least all of it. Going forward, there's going to be some sort of mechanism.
You know, I heard from people who did support Trump right after the election. I just want him to really do what he says he's going to do. Yeah. That's what everyone was saying right after the election, and now it's happening. So I do agree with you.
Ainsley, John McCain's going to be happy about 2 things. Number one, Donald Trump met with Ukrainian leaders yesterday and said, listen, I'm not going to lift the sanctions on Russia right away. He's also going to be happy with the sanctions that Iran got, because he was tired of seeing Iran run right over us for the last 8 years. And right away, President Trump made it clear that missile test you have, there's going to be ramifications, and it came down yesterday. So those are 2 things in which makes John McCain and maybe Meghan McCain happy.
I bet that made him happy.
Yes.
You got a job at Fox.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So as it turns out, the stuff that President Trump says he's going to do, he actually follows through on. How refreshing. All right, it's about 10 minutes after 7 o'clock in New York, 10 minutes after 6 here in Houston. It's time for some news headlines with Heather.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning to all of you. Hope you're off to a great Saturday. The most dangerous Mexican drug lord, who's known for escaping from prison, says his New York jail cell, well, is just too strict. The jail itself is. The Brooklyn judge denied Joaquin El Chapo Guzman's lawyer's request for lighter security after complaining that the kingpin spends the day locked up and can't have visitors or make phone calls. Well, he appeared in a Brooklyn courtroom yesterday after being extradited to the U.S. last month, has pleaded not guilty to multiple drug trafficking charges. From the White House to Houston, Vice President Mike Pence is coming to the Super Bowl. He'll fly in tomorrow on Air Force 2 to watch the New England Patriots take on the Atlanta Falcons. He's the 4th sitting vice president to see the big game in person, following the footsteps of former vice presidents Al Gore and George H.W. Bush. No word yet on which team he's rooting for, but come on by our show. We'd love to see you, Mr. Vice President. And perhaps the Falcons' youngest fan will also be at the game. Falcons offensive guard Andy Levitri shelling out, listen to this, $1,700 on a ticket just so his newborn baby, Lily Jean, can watch her daddy play in the big game. She was born just hours after the Falcons beat the Seattle Seahawks in the divisional round. Tomorrow will be just her 2nd game. Really? He had to buy a ticket just for his newborn? And those are your headlines. Glad she gets to come, though.
Yeah, I know that there's one famous shot, thanks Heather, of Drew Brees after he won, and his son was probably 8 months old, I think, and he put headsets on him, and he had him up there on the stage as he won.
Too. Yeah.
And now I think he's 9.
Look at that. All right. All right, thank you very much, Heather. A little racket over there. You'll see what that is in just a minute. Meanwhile, the White House vowing to fight back after a federal judge blocks the president's temporary immigration order. Former Trump campaign spokeswoman Katrina Pearson here to react live from Houston, Texas. Fox News alert on this Saturday morning. A federal judge ordering an immediate stop to President Trump's immigration order, effectively opening the borders back up for the time being. But this is one of the main reasons President Trump was elected President Trump into office, to keep us safe, remember?
Here to discuss this is Katrina Pearson, the former spokesperson for the Trump campaign. Good morning to you, Katrina.
Great to be here.
Great to see you.
Welcome to Texas.
I know, you're from Dallas.
Texan.
Yeah, we love having you here on the set. What do you think about this federal judge saying, you know what, folks in those 7 countries, now they can come to the U.S.?
Well, I think that this is definitely a slap in the face to the American public. This was not a secret policy that the Trump campaign ran on, and it's just flat out wrong. This is not a Muslim ban. If it were, we'd have to add about 40 other countries to it. And this was something that the Obama administration had outlined. This was President Trump's way of taking that first limiting step into keeping his promise to keeping Americans safe.
Don't you think it's telling that these other nations have not spoken out against this ban? You don't see the UAE or the Saudi Arabia or Qatar coming out saying, I'm outraged by this. It's mostly Americans here who don't really understand what it is about.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's because those other countries do know that there is a problem globally, and they know that President Trump is very serious about the promises that he made to keep Americans safe on the campaign trail.
Sure, but here's the thing. Ultimately, people who are not American citizens do not, under our Constitution, have a right to come into this country. They just don't.
So that's the argument that I make, that the constitutional argument, it just falls flat on its face, because foreign nationals, first of all, aren't entitled to constitutional rights. That's the purpose.
Right.
And so that's why I think that this is going to gin up more support for President Trump. I mean, what is to happen if someone comes in during this time and does harm to American citizens?
So you're saying that this, you know, you watch the other channels and there's a complete freak out. At least we're being fair and balanced. But this is, so what you're saying is this going to backfire on them, and more people are going to go, that's right, Trump's right, what's going on?
Oh, absolutely. Those other fake news websites, we've been seeing a lot of fake news coming out of other prominent networks lately. And there's always outrage. Anything Donald Trump does is going to cause outrage for them. And I do think that this is something that's going to push support for the president, because Americans know it needs to be done.
Katrina, people are out. You talk about being outraged. There are people who are outraged. You have these Democrats that are coming unhinged. They're protesting. They're actually inciting violence at some of these protests. Yeah. Breaking glass, and you're right, throwing Molotov cocktails. I mean, it's gotten really, really crazy. Why is this happening?
Well, when are Democrats not outraged? This is just what happens when they don't get their way. We tend to see snowflakes throw fits, call names, throw tantrums whenever they don't get what they want, essentially. And, you know, this is a page out of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. They take direct action, and that's when you go into the community and you create an event around your defined enemy. In this case, it'd be President Trump, and you just cause chaos. And again, people are tired of this. Parents want their kids to be able to go to college without having to worry about being caught up in this nonsense.
But Katrina, you just said something organized. And the Daily Caller today says they have found out that there's a group, progressive charity, funded by George Soros in the city of Tucson, and a major labor union and several large companies together who are financing a lot of these protests. And amongst the people backing it, Howard Dean, he said, I like it. And these people will be running America soon. Really? In stocking masks and ski masks and dressed in black?
Imagine a Tea Party rally going down the way that did. I mean, you just wouldn't have that. But we experienced this on the campaign, too. You don't have to go back very far to see Bill Ayers. Look at our Chicago rally when candidate Trump was going into a black community, wanted to bring his message, and you saw the same kind of thing.
And in both the college campus riots that we saw, it was all about shutting down people who had a different point of view than the progressive point of view. If you're a conservative on campus, they don't want to hear from you.
Well, it wasn't even just people, Steve. This was a gay immigrant who was going to a college campus.
But he's conservative. That's the problem.
And he's a conservative. Like I said, these snowflakes, they don't want anyone to go against their own philosophy.
And among the people that agree with you, Bill Maher, who said that there's a problem on the left, they don't want to listen. Thanks so much, Katrina. Great to see you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up straight ahead, it's the biggest sports event of the year in this country and in the world. So what does it take to put the Super Bowl on the air? We went behind the scenes with Fox, and the man in charge of all of it is the president of Fox Sports, Eric Shanks. He is going to be leaving our green room, which he put together in a moment.
And do Steve, Heather, and Janice have what it takes to go to outer space? Wait until you see what happens when they went to visit NASA right here in Houston.
I'm not sure I feel confident with you guys.
All right, President Trump is scaling back regulations to give a boost to small businesses across the country.
We want to make life easier for the small business owners. We are going to simplify, reduce, eliminate regulation.
So how do small business owners feel about that? Let's talk to some. We got a panel here live in Houston. Lily Gil-Valletta is the CEO of Sen Plus. Gordon Kwan is managing partner of the Houston-based Kwan Law Firm. And Laura Muriello is the president and CEO of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to you, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Lily, let's talk to you first. How important is it that this president wants to get rid of as many regulations as he possibly can?
You know, for us as small businesses, anything that makes growing and scaling our business is a good thing. So tax reform promises and the rising cost of healthcare under control, or anything that allows us to get access to capital, is going to be a good proposition, not just for small businesses, but for the American economy to thrive.
And you mentioned the cost of healthcare is rising, as it has. Has Obamacare been a problem for your company?
It has, and it has for a lot of us small business owners that have to carry the burden of that increase that many times we never forecasted for. I kept getting letters probably every 6 months that said that my tax rates, my insurance rates were going up, and I'm hoping that that doesn't surprise me anymore.
All right. Gordon, are you hopeful that this new president can help small business?
I am hopeful. I'll tell you, we're watching everything very carefully right now. Small businesses depend upon labor, and having access to labor readily available is important. What he wants to do on a long-term basis with immigration, I think, is important as well. How he regulates that to make sure people can work legally and be productive.
A change from the last administration is I think that the employers now have to follow the rules of the law, and I think employers like yourselves have to, if you're going to hire somebody, you got to go through E-Verify, which that's last time you didn't have to.
It was optional before, now they make it mandatory. You're right.
Is that good or bad for you?
Well, I think it's going to really weed out a lot of people, but I think it precipitates a situation where we need to look at a long-term basis of where this country is going on immigration in general.
All right. Laura, how do you feel about that?
Well, certainly the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is happy to be at the table. We recently met with President Trump's transition team. That was critically important, and I believe a step in the right direction to continue to dialogue with 57 million Latinos who represent this country, who are part of America, and we too want to be heard and be part of that conversation. We don't want any unintended consequences. Sure. We are hopeful. He is our president. We move forward as a Chamber of Commerce, as Houston, and as a community, but we also want to make sure that this big community is understood and heard, and that there are no unintended consequences that can be damaging.
Well, one of the things that Donald Trump ran on was extreme vetting because, you know, he has felt that our nation is at peril, exposed in some measure. With the temporary travel restrictions, are you okay with his ultimate goal, which is to make us safer?
I think we're all in favor of having a safe country. No one argues that point. I think it's just a matter of how it's being done and the way it's being communicated to others.
Lily, if the President of the United States was watching right now, what would you want him to know about small business and how to help?
I think not just the President, but everyone that's watching, the matters of small business is a matter that should matter to everyone in America. We are the ones creating the net new job growth, up to 60% of the new jobs. Okay. And anything that stifles us from growing and having access to capital and employing new people is going to impact the economy, and therefore anything that helps us is going to help everybody, and all ties will rise with our growth.
Gordon, I'll give you the final word. Any ideas for this administration?
We've grown because of our diversity. People come with a drive to make it in this country, to create jobs, to make their families better. And the more we enhance that, the better off we are as a country.
All right. I know ultimately this administration just wants to make America great again, but don't we all?
Yes.
Just saying. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Great discussion.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, still ahead, a big program. Corey Lewandowski, the former campaign manager to Donald Trump, is going to join us live in about 10 minutes. And Adam Vinatieri knows what it's like to play under pressure. He's kicked 2 Super Bowl winning field goals, but can he set a world record, 20 kicks in less than 60 seconds? Find out coming up next from the man cave and then the field.
There you go. The Super Bowl is tomorrow, Brian. It's here. Come on up to the set.
It's freezing. We're trying to warm up. Live from Houston, Texas, it is Fox and Friends for Super Bowl Saturday. And there you can see Doug, the dadgum smoker guy,
who's dancing
along
with Janice. You know, 1.33 billion wings are devoured over the Super Bowl weekend.
Right.
And look who's joining us on the set, Brian.
Yeah. So the Stafford Cobras are out there, the Falcon cheerleaders. You saw the Patriot cheerleaders and the Patriot mascot, the Falcon mascot, the Super Bowl mascot, and a lot of food and players. There's a lot going on here.
And look who's here. We got Corey Lewandowski, who is President Trump's first campaign manager. Corey, nice to see you.
Great to be here.
Hey, Corey.
Hi.
Okay, the band's going to wrap up. There you go.
Hey, right on cue. Like
that's
who are you
the
pulling
Sam
for?
Houston marching
Come
band.
on, I'm a New England guy. It's Tom Brady, baby.
Absolutely. 27% of the country, only 27% of the country want the Patriots to win. Does that bother you, or does that inspire you?
Ryan, the polls are wrong. In case you didn't see it, right, baby? The polls are wrong. You know that.
All right,
2 years the polls have been wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the news. First up, The president, with his executive order last week, the extreme vetting, stopping people from 7 different countries who are not American citizens from coming into the United States. And then this judge yesterday said, nope, can't do that anymore. Temporarily frozen. Sounds like the White House might do something else. What could the White House do?
Look, so the president has already said, if you look at the person that the president has nominated to be the next Supreme Court justice, this is a person who's not going, if he's confirmed, not going to litigate from the bench, not going to make rules from the bench. What they said is, there are 3 branches of government, and they're all equal, but the bottom line is, when the president writes an executive order, it's his prerogative to do so, it should be implemented. And so what you have now is you've got an activist judge who's appointed saying, no, I'm going to stop everything from taking place. This is an unelected individual who's decided to inject themselves.
Appointed by George Bush.
It doesn't matter who they're appointed by. The problem is these judges have no accountability once they take the bench. And I understand the process that you need 3 branches of government, but you can't have one individual who's never been elected, who nobody knows, who decides, I'm going to override the President of the United States. That's not how the system works. So now they have to go through potentially the appeals process or change the executive order. But the bottom line is the President wants to keep our country safe. It's 7 countries that would say, hey, let's take a pause, a temporary pause of who's coming in so our country can be safe. I don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah. Corey, when you were running out, apparently the President of the United States down in Mar-a-Lago was tweeting out. He just tweeted this out. When a country is no longer able to say who can and who cannot come in and out, especially for reasons of safety and security, big trouble.
It's so simple, right? He's talked about this for 2 years. If we don't have a border, we don't have a country. If we can't control who's coming in, he said, maybe it's the greatest Trojan horse of all time. We can't even vet people coming into our country anymore. And when we do such a bad job, they commit mass suicide, on the West Coast.
Corey, what you're saying is logical. And I think the most logical thing to do is to tie it to the machete attack in France or the Belgium attack or the Nice attack. That's what the president is trying to avoid clearly. That's his objective. But it's not being communicated effectively. Does that have anything to do with the fact that they're not fully staffed yet on the communication level, on the Homeland Security? We just got a secretary 4 days ago, just got a defense secretary and secretary of state. Does that have anything to do with the fact that that message is not getting out effectively?
Sure. Part of it, too, is remember, the Senate Democrats have refused to listen to these nominees. They're walking away from the committee, so they're not going to let these individuals come in and take their roles inside the federal government, which is hampering the work of the federal government, of course. The Senate Democrats should vote on these individuals, not boycott them, move them through as quickly as possible. We need an attorney general. Jeff Sessions needs to be confirmed as the next attorney general so we can make sure the processes are moving forward. That's with multiple people. But the other part of this is, this administration has been in place for exactly 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and look at the work they've accomplished. What no one understands about President Trump is he's going to get more done in the first 2 weeks of administration than most administrations are going to get in 2 months or 2 years. That's the type of person he is, and that's why it's moving so quickly.
Corey, it's funny you mentioned that because in the Wall Street Journal there's a story about the folks who have worked for Donald Trump for the last 2 weeks and how exhausted they are.
Oh, thank God he went to Mar-a-Lago. Trump's not on vacation. He doesn't take vacation. He's still working. He's just working from Florida.
So that doesn't surprise you. You know what he's like.
And by the way, here's the exact quote, Ainsley.
Yeah, the quote says in the Wall Street Journal is, Mr. Trump prepared to leave the White House Friday for a quick trip to his Mar-a-Lago home in Palm Beach, Florida. One White House official was looking forward to a brief respite. I'm so excited, the official said, about taking a weekend break. We had Katrina Pearson was on with us earlier, and she, worked for Donald Trump too with you. And I said, Katrina, is that true? What's it like? And she said, Ainsley, we would go to 3 cities in one day. The man doesn't sleep.
Oh, it's amazing. And look, these people who just started in the administration don't understand. This is every day. This is the next 4 years. There are no breaks with Mr. Trump, President Trump. He just wants to work. He wants to get things done. I saw it firsthand. I've seen him work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for 2 years. That is what he's bringing to the White House. That's what the American people want. They want fundamental change. And the staff like this, I don't know who that person is, but let me tell you, they're not going to last. It doesn't happen.
They're probably going to need a vacation. So a lot of people said, you remember initially they talked about bringing the press to the Eisenhower building, give them more area because it's such a request and so many demands to be there. So they came up with, when there was outrage expressed there, they came up with a plan B, and that was to bring in Skype reporters on a rotational basis, daily basis, to give them a chance at Sean Spicer. So here was one exchange we wanted to share with you because this has only been a couple of days now, but I think this must have tweaked the media.
Let me go to the fourth Skype seat. Dale Jackson from WVNN Talk Radio in Huntsville, Alabama.
Sean, thank you very much for taking questions from outside the elite media bubble there in D.C. My question is about immigration.
The elite media bubble. And inside the elite media bubble, they were aghast, obviously. There's a complete freak out about Donald Trump and what he's done in the last 2 weeks.
Everything is different, right? Think about the fact that in this day and age where Donald Trump goes directly to the American people through his Twitter account, now they're taking, the White House press secretary is taking calls from outside the briefing room. Oh my God, the AP must be aghast by the whole thing. You know, the big three networks that used to deliver 90% of the news don't understand. Their model's gone. And the more people that can have direct access to the administration, the more information they can get out, that's better for everybody.
Yeah. What do you make of what has been going on in the U.S. Senate with Schumer having people not even showing up, boycotting things like that?
Crying.
People are crying. Nancy Pelosi singing outside, this land is your land. But while you think it looks like they're obstructionists, really, that's all they've got. That's their only game.
They have nothing. They have nothing. It's amazing. Chuck Schumer may be the shortest leader of the Democratic Party in the U.S. Senate in the history. Look, the map is terrible for the Democrats next year in 2018. The Republicans have a number of seats where they have opportunities to pick up, particularly in states like Ohio, where President Trump won Ohio, and you've got Sherrod Brown, an obstructionist in that seat. Many other places. The Democrats, look, their party has failed the American people for 30 years, and the American people have responded with a massive minority.
So that's all Chuck Schumer has, is to look like, he's got to look to his base like, I'm stopping everything.
That's right. Look, there's nothing else they can do. And now, it is unfortunate, because I do think when the president nominates someone to be a cabinet secretary, that person should have a fair hearing, they should be vetted, and they should be voted on. And what we saw, even with General Mattis, who by all accounts was exceptionally qualified to be the Secretary of Defense, we had a Democrat who voted against him.
Yep.
And when it becomes a Democrat who's making their nominations, if it's not bipartisan support, it's uproar from the mainstream media. But this is most of the time a party line vote for the most part, even people who are exceptionally qualified.
Dating back to George Washington, at this point, this is the fewest cabinet secretaries ever confirmed. Dating back to our first president.
But, Brian, you have to remember, the first week after the president won the election, he started nominating these guys. This wasn't a surprise, right? So they all knew they were coming. And the fact that Jeff Sessions has not been confirmed through the U.S. Senate is just mind-numbing to me.
Hey,
now they need to vote for Betsy
Corey, we
DeVos.
have a surprise for you. Tom Brady's friends with Donald Trump.
True.
But the cheerleaders,
and
they love you.
I love that.
And the mascot.
Hey, there you go.
My man.
There you go, Corey.
And there you go.
The winning team.
You finally have a cheering section, Corey.
I love it. I've been waiting for this for 2 years. So
this is not. You never got cheerleaders when you were at CNN. You know that.
I didn't get cheerleaders at CNN. We're going to look for the 5th Super Bowl for Tom tomorrow.
They didn't have cheerleaders. They had the fighting blitzers.
That's what they did.